The air in the mansion was heavy that evening. Jessa stood still as her parents raised their glasses. To Cora, her mother said proudly, our successful daughter who deserves every cent of this gift. Then the lawyer slid a sleek folder toward Cora. Inside, a transfer deed worth $6.5 million. Jessa felt her stomach twist. What about me? She asked quietly. Her father didn't even look at her. You're strong, Jessa. Earn your own money. That's what you're good at. No one noticed the old man standing by the window, Grandpa Nalu, silent, watching everything. When their eyes met, he gave Jessa the smallest nod. It was the beginning of a storm that would change everything. Jessa was the kind of daughter who never asked for much. She stayed up late fixing what others broke, helping her parents, supporting her sister, doing everything quietly while Cora, her older sister, lived in luxury. Cora always got the best things. The newest phone, designer dresses, a fancy car. Their parents adored her and called her their golden child. They said she was born for success. Jessa didn't complain. She thought love wasn't about money or gifts. It was about being seen, being valued. But in her house, being quiet made her invisible. One morning, Jessa overheard her parents talking in the living room. They were selling part of their company shares to give Cora enough money to start her own luxury fashion brand. Jessa stood by the door, listening as her mother said, "It's only fair. Cora will bring honor to this family." Her father nodded. "Yes, it's an investment for our future." Jessa waited for her name to be mentioned, but it never was. Later, when she asked about it, her father smiled like it was nothing. "Sweetheart, you're strong and smart. You don't need help. Earn your own money. That's what you're good at." Those words cut deep. They didn't even realize how much they hurt her. At dinner that night, Cora was glowing. Everyone was celebrating her big step. The table was full of laughter, clinking glasses, and proud smiles. Jessa sat there, pretending to smile too, but inside she felt empty. She looked around and realized that her love, her hard work, her quiet sacrifices, none of it mattered. After the celebration, Jessa went to her room and stared at the ceiling for a long time. She thought of all the times she helped Cora with her projects, fixed their parents' mistakes at work, and supported everyone without asking for a thank you. Now they had given Cora millions, and all Jessa got was a reminder to earn her own way. That night, she didn't cry. She just sat in silence, feeling a heavy ache in her chest. For the first time, she understood that no matter how much she gave, it would never be enough for them. They had already chosen their favorite. And even though she smiled when she said congratulations to Cora, something deep inside Jessa broke quietly, like glass cracking under pressure. That a month later, their mother decided to host a big family dinner. It was supposed to be a celebration of Cora's new milestone. Cora had just opened another branch of her luxury brand, and the house was glowing with light and expensive decorations. The smell of food filled every corner: roasted meat, creamy soup, desserts that looked too perfect to eat. Laughter echoed through the dining room, but Jessa wasn't sitting at the table. Her chair was empty. She sat outside on the cold steps, looking at the stars through the big glass windows. From where she sat, she could hear everything: the laughter, the clinking glasses, and her father's proud voice saying, "Let's raise a toast to Cora, our shining star, the pride of our family." Everyone clapped and cheered. Jessa smiled sadly, tears forming in her eyes. Not one person noticed she wasn't there. Not her mother, not her father, not even her sister. She remembered when they were little, how she always stood by Cora's side, cheering her on, helping her study, fixing her mistakes, covering for her lies. He did everything out of love. But now it felt like none of that mattered. Her parents didn't see her at all. To them, she was the background of Cora's success, the quiet shadow who never demanded attention. As she listened to them laugh and brag about Cora's hard work, something heavy settled in her chest. Jessa had worked harder than anyone in that house, but her hard work was invisible because it didn't come with glitter or fame. Her mother's voice broke her thoughts. "We're so proud of you, Cora. You've made our dreams come true." Jessa looked down at her hands and whispered to herself, "And I was never part of those dreams." After everyone went to sleep, the house grew quiet. Jessa walked back inside, her footsteps soft on the marble floor. She stopped for a moment at the dining table, plates still half full, champagne glasses half empty. She could almost hear the echoes of their laughter fading away. She looked around the big house she once called home, but it no longer felt like hers. Without saying a word to anyone, she went to her room and opened her wardrobe. Slowly, she began packing her clothes into a small suitcase. She folded each shirt neatly, her hands shaking slightly. When she was done, she stood by the window one last time. The night breeze touched her face as she whispered, "If they won't see my worth here, I'll go somewhere they will." Then she zipped her bag, took one deep breath, and walked out of the house quietly, leaving behind the family that never saw her. The next morning, Jessa woke up in her small apartment. The room was quiet, with sunlight peeking through the thin curtains. She had left home without telling anyone, carrying only a small bag and a heavy heart. She didn't know what would come next, but she knew she couldn't stay where she wasn't valued. She was making tea when there was a knock at the door. When she opened it, her breath caught. Standing there was Grandpa Nalu. He looked older than she remembered, his silver hair glowing in the morning light, but his eyes were still sharp and kind. Jessa quickly wiped her face and said, "Grandpa, what are you doing here?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped inside and looked around the small space. Bare walls, second-hand furniture, and a half-packed suitcase on the floor. He didn't look disappointed. He just nodded slowly, as if confirming something he already knew. Finally, he said, "You left quietly. That tells me you've had enough." Jessa lowered her eyes. "I just needed peace, Grandpa," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "Peace is good," he said softly, "but purpose is better." Then he looked straight into her eyes and said, "Sometimes, the quiet one carries the real legacy. Come with me." Jessa hesitated. "Grandpa, I don't even know where I belong anymore," she said. He put a hand on her shoulder. "Then let's find out." They drove for hours, leaving the noise of the city behind. The buildings turned into trees, the streets into winding dirt roads. Finally, they stopped in front of a wide, old estate surrounded by green fields and tall palm trees. The place looked peaceful but strong, just like him. Jessa stepped out of the car, breathing in the fresh air. "What is this place?" she asked. Grandpa smiled proudly. "This is where I built everything your parents now own," he said. "Every brick, every field, every company idea started here." He led her through the fields, showing her the old workshop, the barns, the workers' quarters. "Your father learned business from me," he said, "but he forgot the values behind it. He learned numbers, not purpose." Jessa listened quietly, touched by his honesty. Then he turned to her and said, "I want to see who truly deserves what I built. Not by words, but by actions." Jessa felt something stir inside her, hope mixed with fear. "You mean you want me to work here?" she asked. He nodded. "Yes. Not as my granddaughter, but as someone who wants to build something real. No favoritism, no gifts. Just work and honesty." Jessa looked at the old estate again. It felt like a new beginning. She nodded slowly. "I'll do it, Grandpa." He smiled, proud and quiet. For the first time in a long while, Jessa felt seen. Not for what she had lost, but for what she could become. For the next 2 years, Jessa's life changed completely. She was no longer the quiet girl sitting at the edge of a glittering dinner table. She became a worker, strong, determined, and focused. At Grandpa Nala's estate, there were no fancy clothes, no celebrations, no comfort. Every morning she woke up before sunrise, wore simple clothes, tied her hair back, and joined the workers in the fields. She carried boxes, checked records, managed deliveries, and learned how every small part of the estate worked. It was not easy, but for the first time, she felt like she was part of something meaningful. Grandpa never treated her like a special granddaughter. He gave her no shortcuts, no easy tasks. He simply watched her work, quietly observing how she handled challenges. When farm equipment broke, Jessa found a way to fix it. When a supplier backed out, she found another. When some workers refused to take orders from her because she was young and new, she earned their respect through effort, not words. Bit by bit, she learned everything about farming, production, and export. The old estate had a small export business that had been neglected for years. Jessa saw its potential. She started rebuilding it, beginning with the damaged storage units. She reorganized the accounts, created new systems, and reached out to old clients. Slowly, profits began to return. The workers started trusting her ideas. They could see she wasn't there to give orders. She worked harder than anyone else. Even when she made mistakes, she learned quickly and never blamed others. Grandpa Nalu watched her from a distance. He rarely spoke about her progress, never praised or scolded her. Sometimes Jessa wondered if he even noticed her efforts. But deep down she understood this was a test. Not one he announced, but one he quietly designed. He wanted to see who she truly was when no one was watching, when there was no reward waiting. While Jessa worked in silence, her sister Cora's life looked perfect from the outside. Her social media was full of photos, luxury trips, expensive handbags, and glamorous parties. People called her a boss lady, and her parents still bragged about her success. But behind the camera, things were falling apart. Rumors started spreading online that Cora's brand wasn't paying investors. Shipments were delayed, customers were complaining, and money was missing. Jessa heard the gossip from workers who followed the news. She didn't smile or gloat. She just kept working. Her focus wasn't on revenge or comparison, it was on growth. She had finally learned that real success doesn't need to be shown off. It builds itself quietly. And though Grandpa never said it aloud, every time he looked at Jessa from across the fields, there was pride in his eyes, a pride he kept hidden until the right moment to reveal. The news came like a storm. Cora's company, once shining in the headlines, suddenly collapsed. Reports of tax fraud, unpaid investors, and fake invoices spread everywhere. Her glamorous world crumbled overnight. The same followers who once praised her began to mock her online. Her luxury brand stores shut down, her business partners pulled out, and her reputation was gone. She tried to hide it at first, posting old pictures to make everything seem normal, but the truth couldn't stay buried for long. Their parents were shocked. For years, they had trusted Cora completely, bragging about her success to anyone who would listen. Now all their pride turned into anger and fear. They were terrified that their family name would be ruined. Their phones didn't stop ringing. Calls from banks, lawyers, and reporters asking questions they couldn't answer. Their once peaceful mansion became filled with shouting and blame. In the middle of all this, they thought of only one person who could fix the mess, Jessa. Their mother called her, her voice shaking but still proud. "Jessa, your sister needs help," she said. "You always fix things. Fix this too." Jessa listened quietly. Her heart ached because she had predicted this long ago. Still, hearing it from her mother's mouth felt heavy. When she asked what exactly they wanted, her father said, "Use your savings, your business, whatever you can. We need to save the family image. Cora is your sister." Jessa took a deep breath before replying. "You told me to earn my own money," she said calmly. "And I did. But I worked for it, every bit of it. You gave her millions, and she spent it. Now you want me to clean up what she broke." There was silence on the other end. Her mother tried to reason. "She made mistakes, but she's family." Jessa closed her eyes. "So am I," she whispered. "But you only remember me when you need saving." Then she hung up. That night, she sat on the porch of Grandpa's estate, watching the stars above. She thought about her parents, how they never called just to ask if she was okay, only when they needed her strength. She thought about Cora, who once told her to work harder when Jessa asked for help. And now Cora was the one drowning. Jessa didn't celebrate their fall. She didn't laugh or feel revenge. But she also didn't go back. She had spent years building her life from nothing, earning her respect and independence. She wasn't going to throw it away to fix what others had destroyed with pride and greed. The next morning, she sent a short message to her parents. "I hope you all find peace. I already have mine." It was short, but it said everything. Jessa had finally learned that sometimes the best way to save yourself is to stop saving those who never valued you. A month later, Grandpa Nala called for a family meeting. The whole family gathered at his estate, thinking it was about Cora's legal troubles. The air was thick with tension. Cora arrived dressed elegantly, trying to hide her worry behind a forced smile. Their parents were anxious, whispering to each other about how to protect the family name. Jessa came quietly, simple as always, carrying herself with calm confidence. She had no idea what Grandpa had planned, but she felt ready for anything. The family sat in the grand hall, the walls lined with old paintings and heavy curtains. Grandpa Nalu sat at the head of the table, his face serious but calm. The lawyer stood beside him, holding a large folder. Everyone expected a lecture, a plan to bail Cora out. or instructions on how to save the failing business. Murmurs filled the room. Finally, some good news for Cora, whispered their mother. Jessa stayed silent, her hands folded neatly in her lap. The lawyer slowly opened the folder and cleared his throat. Everyone leaned in. Papers were spread carefully on the table. The lawyer began. Grandpa Nalu has made a decision regarding his estate. After careful consideration, he has transferred the entirety of his wealth, valued at $28 million, to Jessa. The room froze. Cora's eyes went wide. Her mother gasped. Her father's face turned pale. Jessa blinked, feeling the words sink in. $28 million, all hers. She hadn't expected it, but it felt right. She had worked, earned respect, and built herself from the ground up. This wasn't charity, it was recognition. Cora's hands trembled. What? Grandpa, why? She stammered, her voice shaking. Their mother jumped in. This can't be right. He can't do this. Jessa doesn't deserve this over Cora. Grandpa Nala's voice cut through the chaos, calm but firm. I built this estate and this wealth with values, not with favoritism. Jessa worked, learned, and proved she could carry my legacy. She earned it. Cora's money came easily, and she squandered the lessons I tried to teach her. Jessa's face remained serene. She didn't gloat or smile. She simply sat there, feeling a mix of relief and quiet triumph. For years, she had been invisible in her family, overlooked and underestimated. Now, without saying a word, her life had changed forever. The lawyer continued. This transfer is final. All assets, properties, and investments under Grandpa Nala's name now belong solely to Jessa. The room erupted in whispers, arguments, and shocked gasps. Jessa finally looked at her family, her voice calm. I don't want anything from anyone else. I earned this the hard way, and I will honor it the right way. Grandpa Nala nodded, a small smile on his lips. For the first time, Jessa felt the full weight of recognition, not from words or applause, but from the trust of the man who had always seen her when no one else did. Her father couldn't believe what had just happened. His face was red, his hands trembling as he pointed at Jessa. You manipulated him. You used your pity to win him over, he shouted, his voice echoing through the grand hall. He paced back and forth, trying to make sense of it, his anger mixing with panic. You didn't earn this. You made him feel sorry for you, and now he's giving you everything. Their mother stood frozen, her mouth open, unsure what to say. Cora's eyes filled with tears, a mix of anger, frustration, and disbelief. Grandpa, please. It's not fair. I worked for this too, she cried, her voice breaking as she looked at Jessa pleadingly. Jessa stayed calm. She didn't shout, didn't cry, didn't defend herself. She knew the truth. She had worked, day in and day out, earning respect, learning everything from the ground up, building something real with her own hands. Nothing had been easy, and she had never asked for help that wasn't offered. She had never taken shortcuts, never relied on charm or pity. Grandpa Nala finally stood, his old frame straightening, his voice calm but strong. Enough, he said. The room went silent instantly. She earned every cent with sweat, not tears, while Cora spent Jessa. Built. I know who carries my legacy. He looked at his son, Jessa's father, and continued. You think money is enough to make a person worthy. You think giving and taking is what builds success. You are wrong. Real strength comes from patience, hard work, and integrity. Jessa has all of it. Cora had the wealth, but she wasted the lessons I tried to teach her. Her father's anger faltered, replaced by a mix of shock and shame. He opened his mouth to argue, but Grandpa's stare stopped him. It wasn't just authority. It was a quiet power that demanded respect. Jessa felt a small warmth in her chest. For years, she had been invisible to her parents, overlooked and underestimated. Now in this room, she was seen, acknowledged, and respected, not for luck or charm, but for her dedication. Cora sank into her chair, her face pale, her pride shattered. She had always believed that wealth and appearances were enough, but now she understood that effort and honesty mattered more than money or luxury. Jessa didn't gloat. She only watched quietly, letting the truth speak for itself. Grandpa Nalu turned to Jessa and nodded. You've proven yourself. You are the one who can carry forward everything I built. Jessa's heart swelled, not with triumph over her sister, but with relief and pride. She had waited years for recognition, and finally, it had come. Not from anyone else's approval, but from the man whose eyes had always seen her worth. The confrontation ended not with shouting or tears, but with a quiet, undeniable truth. Jessa had earned her place, and no argument, no jealousy, and no claim of pity could take it away. After the meeting, Cora's pride completely broke. She ran after Jessa as she walked toward the estate gardens, her heels clicking frantically on the stone path. Tears streamed down her face, her makeup smudged and her voice trembled. "Please, Jessa, I've lost everything," she cried. "Just lend me something, anything. I promise I'll pay you back. I don't know what to do." Jessa stopped and turned slowly, her eyes steady on her sister. She didn't speak at first. She let Cora's words sink in, the desperation, the regret, the fear in her voice. She remembered all the times she had tried to help Cora before, when she asked for guidance, when she tried to show her how to work hard, how to respect people, how to manage money and opportunities. Each time, Cora had dismissed her, laughed, or told her to try harder in her own life. Jessa's gaze softened for a moment, but there was no pity in it. Instead, there was clarity, a quiet strength that came from years of hard work, from learning to depend only on herself, from building something real while everyone else chased appearances. She spoke slowly, her voice calm but firm. "I begged you once, remember?" she said. "You told me I should try working harder. So I did." Cora's hands trembled as she reached toward Jessa, but Jessa stepped back. She didn't raise her voice, didn't argue, didn't offer excuses. She simply looked at her sister one last time, letting the truth settle in between them. Cora had been given wealth, support, and guidance, but she had chosen shortcuts, spending without care, ignoring lessons that mattered. Jessa had chosen the hard path, and now she held her own success, her own legacy, and her own peace. For the first time, Cora realized that money wasn't the solution. She couldn't beg her way into respect, into lessons she never learned, into the hard-earned recognition Jessa had earned with her own hands. Her sister's quiet strength could not be bought or borrowed. Jessa turned and began walking away, each step calm and deliberate. Cora stayed frozen, tears still running down her cheeks, her voice caught in her throat. Jessa didn't look back. She walked toward the gardens, toward the sunlight, toward the life she had built for herself. She didn't gloat, she didn't mock. She simply moved forward, leaving Cora to face the consequences of her choices. And in that moment, Jessa felt lighter than she ever had. She had earned everything the hard way, and no plea, no tears, and no regret from her sister could change that. She had her freedom, her respect, and her future, and nothing could take that away. After the meeting, Cora's pride completely broke. She ran after Jessa as she walked toward the estate gardens, her heels clicking frantically on the stone path. Tears streamed down her face, her makeup smudged, and her voice trembled. "Please, Jessa, I've lost everything," she cried. "Just lend me something, anything. I promise I'll pay you back. I don't know what to do." Jessa stopped and turned slowly, her eyes steady on her sister. She didn't speak at first. She let Cora's words sink in, the desperation, the regret, the fear in her voice. She remembered all the times she had tried to help Cora before, when she asked for guidance, when she tried to show her how to work hard, how to respect people, how to manage money and opportunities. Each time, Cora had dismissed her, laughed, or told her to try harder in her own life. Jessa's gaze softened for a moment, but there was no pity in it. Instead, there was clarity, a quiet strength that came from years of hard work, from learning to depend only on herself, from building something real while everyone else chased appearances. She spoke slowly, her voice calm but firm. "I begged you once, remember?" she said. "You told me I should try working harder. So I did." Cora's hands trembled as she reached toward Jessa, but Jessa stepped back. She didn't raise her voice, didn't argue, didn't offer excuses. She simply looked at her sister one last time, letting the truth settle in between them. Cora had been given wealth, support, and guidance, but she had chosen shortcuts, spending without care, ignoring lessons that mattered. Jessa had chosen the hard path, and now she held her own success, her own legacy, and her own peace. For the first time, Cora realized that money wasn't the solution. She couldn't beg her way into respect, into lessons she never learned, into the hard-earned recognition Jessa had earned with her own hands. Her sister's quiet strength could not be bought or borrowed. Jessa turned and began walking away, each step calm and deliberate. Cora stayed frozen, tears still running down her cheeks, her voice caught in her throat. Jessa didn't look back. She walked toward the gardens, toward the sunlight, toward the life she had built for herself. She didn't gloat, she didn't mock. She simply moved forward, leaving Cora to face the consequences of her choices. And in that moment, Jessa felt lighter than she ever had. She had earned everything the hard way. And no plea, no tears, and no regret from her sister could change that. She had her freedom, her respect, and her future, and nothing could take that away. Months passed, and Jessa's life transformed completely. She had worked tirelessly on the estate and the export business, learning every detail, managing every problem, and turning it into something strong and respected. Slowly she expanded, creating her own brand that honored everything Grandpa Nalu had taught her: honesty, hard work, and integrity. Unlike Cora's flashy ventures, Jessa's brand focused on quality, trust, and real value. People noticed. Investors began calling, media outlets wrote stories, and soon she became known as the self-made heir, the one who built her success from the ground up. Her parents, who had once ignored her, were shocked. They saw news articles, social media posts, and interviews praising Jessa for her intelligence, dedication, and courage. The family name, which they had thought was safe only because of Cora's fake glamour, was now shining because of Jessa. They realized too late that the true heir, the one who carried values, not just money, was sitting quietly, watching, learning, and growing. They tried to reach out. Calls, messages, invitations to dinners, and polite visits. Everything. "Jessa, we want to make things right," her mother said over the phone, voice soft and pleading. Her father sent emails and letters filled with apologies and explanations. They offered support, gifts, and promises, hoping to step back into her life. Jessa listened but didn't respond. She had learned the hard way that respect and trust were earned, not demanded or bought. She didn't need their approval to feel complete. She didn't reject them out of anger. She simply maintained her boundaries. Her life had finally become hers, built with her own hands, her own decisions, and her own sacrifices. She understood that real power wasn't about controlling others or being recognized. It was about knowing her worth and standing firm. Every Sunday, Jessa visited Grandpa Nala's grave. She carried fresh flowers and sat quietly beside it, speaking softly about her progress, her plans, and how grateful she was for his lessons. She felt his guidance in every decision she made and saw his wisdom reflected in her growing business. These visits became her ritual, a reminder that her strength came from the values he had instilled in her, not from the wealth she had inherited. Jessa's life was calm but powerful. She had shifted the balance of her family not with anger, but with persistence, dedication, and quiet determination. While her parents and sister struggled to understand how she became the real heir, Jessa had already moved on, focused on growth, honor, and the legacy she was now building herself. She had everything she had ever wanted: respect, independence, and the satisfaction of knowing she earned it all. The night of the awards ceremony arrived, and Jessa stepped onto the stage. The lights were bright, shining down on her as the crowd watched in silence, waiting for her words. She wore a simple dress, elegant but not flashy, and on her wrists were her grandfather's old cufflinks, a reminder of the lessons he had taught her. For a moment, she looked out at the audience, journalists, investors, and supporters who had followed her journey. Her heart beat steadily, not from nerves but from pride. She took a deep breath and began to speak. "When my family told me to earn my own money, they were right," she said, her voice calm and clear. "I just wish they'd known that strength doesn't grow from wealth. It grows from being left out." Every word carried the weight of her journey, the years of hard work, the silent struggles, and the lessons she had learned. The audience listened, captivated, feeling the truth in her story. As she spoke, memories flashed in her mind: her parents praising Cora, the dinners where she sat quietly outside, the long days working beside Grandpa, the nights she spent building her brand from scratch. All of it had led to this moment. She didn't speak to shame her family. She spoke to show that real success comes from effort, integrity, and resilience. When she finished, there was a moment of silence. Then the audience rose to their feet, clapping, cheering, and even some wiping tears from their eyes. Jessa smiled, feeling a quiet joy. She had earned not just recognition, but respect, the kind that comes from proving yourself in the hardest way possible. Back at home, Cora sat in front of the TV frozen. She watched her sister on the big screen, confident, strong, and celebrated by everyone. For the first time, she realized something her money could never buy. The real inheritance Jessa had earned wasn't the millions or the estate. It was respect, admiration, and the power of a life built with honesty and effort. Cora's heart sank as she understood the truth. No amount of wealth could replace the strength Jessa had gained by walking her own path. Jessa stepped down from the stage later, quietly accepting congratulations from friends and mentors. She didn't need to flaunt her success. Her work, her story, and the recognition she had earned spoke for her. That night, as she walked back to her car, she felt a calm satisfaction. She had proven herself, honored her grandfather's legacy, and built a life that was truly hers. And somewhere in that moment, she knew that no one could ever take that away from her.